I've transitioned into this place where I am wholly comfortable in who I am, and I'm 27 years old, transitioning into this place of comfortability, which some people, depending on who you're asking, would say that I'm a little bit ahead of the curve. Some would say I'm right on time. But in accepting that, what I have also become resistant to is this notion of having to show up a certain way or feeling compelled to show up in a certain way when it comes to my community. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that I'm gay. I'm a part of the gay community. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've become blithely aware of the fact that we are mean girls to each other. And we make it almost impossible for each other to exist or coexist in the same spaces. And that is largely due to the fact that we are constantly judging each other on what we're wearing, who we're having sex, how we're showing up, what we do for work, whatever elitist quos that we've picked up along the way that we've probably adapted from some real housewife character or some white woman is how we choose to operate and then oppress each other using those same modes of operation. It is exhausting. I have a video on TikTok right now that talks about I'm a butch queen. You're not gonna mask fem me to death. The motivation behind that video was partly from when I first moved to Atlanta 5 years ago. And I remember, being on dating apps, matching with guys, and one of the first questions they would always ask me, are you masc or are you femme? And I remember asking my cousin, who's a little bit older than me, because he had been here, I think at that point for almost 10 years. And I was like, what is this? What is masc or femme? What does that mean? Like, I knew what it meant in the sense of sociology, right? There are masculine, feminine traits. Like, in the terms of sociology, anatomy, and science, I knew what it meant, but I couldn't really conceptualize what it meant in terms of how I show up and why people were asking me that. It seemed to be this deal breaker of, are you this or are you that? And he was like, are you masc or femme? And I'm like, explain. Mask being, do you present as a more masculine man who has masculine attributes, masculine habits, masculine traits? Or do you show up as more of a feminine man who has more feminine attributes, feminine traits? Okay, get specific with me. What do those attributes look like? Well, how do you dress? How do you act? What type of people do you hang around? What type of habits or extracurricular activities or hobbies do you have that lean towards that? Feminine being the same thing, right? All the way down to like how you get your nails done. If you use concealer to cover up your dark spots, you know what I mean? Like, are you top or are you bottom? I mean, all of these things that really mind me, because I'm thinking to myself, how are oppressed people oppressing each other? System, if you will, of all of these rules of how people should operate, and then be categorized and then be antagonized or ostracized based on that. Crazy. Crazy, 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 crazy. And I decided that day that I was not going to play that game. That game, I'm not playing. It's so crazy to me that we allow ourselves to operate in these spaces, and then we then begin to pick our partners, choose our friends based upon these things. We're weaponizing our sexuality to garner a certain response and approval from who? Whose approval are we looking for? Because all I see is a bunch of broken, confused, angry, misled, misguided, ego driven, narcissistic like people doing things from a place of emptiness. So then I have to beg the question to my fellow sisters or brothers, whatever pronouns you use. Then I have to beg the question though, who are we and what do we stand for? Because what I've found is, and I've sat at many tables and been in many rooms, my resume is long. The receipts are there. What I found is, with the exception of a few, most of us are operating under this undocumented status quo. This undocumented book of rules on how to show up, how to be perceived in a certain way, even if that's not who you really are. And then how to benefit from that. Or how to go home and take that mask off, but yet still in the comfort of your home, post on social media to still evoke that certain perspective or personality that you want the outward world to know. I know and I'm aware that we may use it as a defense mechanism, as a mode of making sure that our family members and those around us who may not be so accepting of our choice of life are comfortable and are able to digest us. And I get that to some degree, based upon the situations and based upon how we grew up and how our childhood manifested into our adulthood, that is necessary to protect yourself and to stay safe. But also, too, at the same time, we have to be led into the conviction of having a conversation about what that does to each other. Because what we're doing to each other is killing us. It's killing our spirits. It's killing us. It's killing our spirits, and it's putting us in a position of opposition with each other amongst our own community. All of us feel lonely. All of us feel, most of us feel lonely. Most of us feel unloved. Most of us feel hopeless and helpless when it comes to finding love and identifying a partner. And yet no one is challenging the system of thought. And the people that are talking about it and acknowledging that it's a problem are the people who are still participating in it. Because they feel so outnumbered by the other idiots that are leading the charge. I want us to have so much conviction and being who we are, not a category, not a check mark, not a persona, who we are genuinely. Because I fear that part of what has been holding us back is that we've attached our identities to these caricatures that make no sense for who we are to be in terms of our best selves. I would love to see a day where every gay man, every gay black man specifically, is led to a freedom of expression within their own community. that when they make the choice to be free in the world or in their familiar structures, that when they step into this community, that freedom is not molded and shaped and corrected by this imaginary system of rule books that say we have to be like this and show up like this and act like this and look like this and talk like this and post pictures like this and stand like this. And it's nonsense. Because at the end of the day, who are we? And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, can we say that we lived a life authentic to who we are? To who we feel so called and compelled to be, not to who someone tells us we are. Who am I? Who am I?